to another edition of our Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast with my partner, Gordon Wittenmeyer, who's actually at a ball game today. I'm David Kaplan. All right, Gordon, let's start with the Cubs have had 15 guys on the IL. So I said this morning,
16.
15. I said to my partner, Jonathan Hood, and our crew, I said, guys, there's only 5 teams in the National League over 500. The Cubs are one of them. I know that they haven't hit the ball well as of late, but they had no Bellinger, they had no Suzuki, they had no Swanson, they had no Horner, they got a rookie first baseman, they got a guy struggling at third, and they got Ian Happ, who looks like he can't hit right now. So through all those issues, they're still over 500. Their bullpen hasn't been good. They've had 8 pitchers on the injured list. I think it's a very positive sign that they go into the game with the Braves on Thursday afternoon, a chance to take a series from a quality opponent. What say you, O seer of the future?
Okay, I see where you're going with this, and there are reasons for optimism. However, they're walking a tightrope, Gap.
I agree.
Because the difference right now between having a losing record and having a winning record is Shota Imanaga. They're 8-1 when he starts.
Right.
They have a losing record when he doesn't. And if he comes back to earth, even incrementally, which is bound to happen, he's not going to finish with an 0.84 ERA, then these other guys have to pick it up. That means Steele has to do what Steele does. And he looked pretty good for most of that game the other day. Tyone has to continue to perform. And you better not take any more steps back in that rotation than you already have, especially with Kyle Hendricks. Now that he's in the bullpen, he becomes huge there too. So, what you need to have happen at this point to maintain this without it going the other way fast, because it can, is the defensive lineup that you expected to be one of the better defensive teams in baseball needs to start going that direction again. And maybe now with Dansby Swanson back and Horner back and Bellinger back, all in the same lineup together, if they get 100% again together, then maybe that's a start for that. But right now, the Cubs are among the worst fielding teams in baseball. That bullpen obviously has to step up. Neris looks a little better lately. Lighters looked good. And if Hendricks can help at least in the short term, that's a big deal, especially with all those guys hurt and how crappy most of the rest of them are as well. Ben Brown, if he can kind of hold his own, give you at least some innings while he's making some starts, that's huge. But all these things have to happen, because if something else cracks, and we saw Assad kind of cracked in his last outing. Hey, I'm not raising alarm bells or anything like that by any means. But, I mean, if things that have been going really, really well start to crack, then this could go bad fast. Imanaga, again, it goes back to Imanaga. He is the biggest reason. For instance, they haven't lost 3 games in a row. He's the biggest reason why. They have a winning record. He's the biggest reason why. So when you rely on one guy like that or 1 or 2 guys like that, you're walking a tightrope.
Okay, so Tony Andracki, our former colleague at NBC Sports Chicago, Tony Andracki works at Marquee. He posted this before last night's game, that would be Wednesday, before Wednesday night's game, when Jose Cuas just was horrible in relief of Justin Steele in the 7th inning. Since May the 14th, so that would have been an 8-day sample of the bullpen. The Cubs had the number 1 ERA by a mile of any bullpen in baseball. Number 1 and number 1 in OPS allowed. The Astros were 2nd, and I'm trying to remember, I think the Rays were 3rd. Now, that's a small sample size, but if you even expand the sample size, they've pitched better as of late. Hector Neris I'm being told,
Yeah.
is showing incredible leadership. They said, this is one of the leaders in the room. Called a team meeting. Like, this is that guy. But now,
That's who they signed. That was why part of why they signed him.
all right, so if you have him, you have Leiter. I'm going to assume Ben Brown, who's an opener on Thursday, but I'm assuming he will be used more in that higher leverage relief type role. You got those three. You still don't have a lefty. I don't trust Luke Little. And you've got to find a way to get somebody to close a game. Because if you're playing, I'm going next week. I will be at the Cubs at Brewers game on Tuesday night in Milwaukee. I'll be there in my Cub blue, ready to go. Okay, if it's 3-2 going to the bottom of the ninth, then you got to go through the heart of their order. Who are you handing the ball to?
Bottom of the ninth?
Bottom of the ninth, Cubs lead 3-2 at AmFam Field.
Hector Neris.
Boy, he walks a lot of guys.
He's been a little better lately at that. I mean, you got, look, Leiter, whatever. Neris is your closer right now. I think that's the guy you hand the ball to. You better trust him. He better get it done, because if he doesn't, and again, you're razor thin out there. You know, and this is where, again, Hendricks comes in, and this is where you need to go get somebody. You know, we talked about that for a while, and they did. I mean, they went and got Tyson Miller. Yep. And so, you know, they're still doing incremental things like that. That's obviously their focus going forward toward the trade deadline. But look, man, this division is still up for grabs. I tell you, man, Milwaukee, I did not see Milwaukee coming as strong as they have. I didn't think they were going to go completely away, and they may not be a 90-win team, but they're a legit good ball club, and they're not going away this year. So, you know, when you're a team with some serious flaws, and I go back to that tightrope analogy, then, I mean, you can't afford to fall off that tightrope, because the Brewers aren't going away.
Speaking of Milwaukee, I think you owe me dinner.
How's this now?
Did we not bet what they would go on their road trip, 9-game trip?
Yeah, I don't recall.
Yeah, huh? They've been getting beaten pretty good.
Yeah, I don't recall that. I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, I'm going to pick out where I'm going to go eat. All right, let's talk about Kyle Hendricks, because Kyle Hendricks is no longer in the rotation. And I thought he was a perfect example to people who go through adversity in their career, where he said, hey, man, I've been terrible. I haven't been good enough. I'm embracing this new role. Let's see if I can do the job. I think I can. And then see where that leads. But I am on board 100%. There was no whining, no complaint. That dude is just a winner. So what would you do with Kyle Hendricks?
I do exactly what they're doing with him. And I know there was some discussion out there, some speculation out there. Well, should they DFA him? Should they leave him on the IL in perpetuity until X, Y, or Z happens? No, this guy has meant so much to the franchise, and he's had moments that you say, well, I don't think we can afford, on the one hand, to just sort of jettison him, never mind the salary. But the other thing is, what if he gives you that month? What if he gives you that 3 months at some point? You got to keep trying. Plus the quality of the person that he is, and the quality of the part of the organization that he is, all that matters. So this is a hell of a good compromise in my mind. He has an excellent OPS against first time through the order since his first start. It's terrible second time through the order. It's off the charts awful third time through the order. So this idea that he can come in and maybe give you a couple innings, maybe even 3, maybe just 1. But the idea that he can pitch out of the bullpen and you can pick your spots for him and he can help you maybe bridge some gaps, I think that's a good plan. I don't know how it's going to play out. Kyle Hendricks couldn't tell you how it's going to play out. He hasn't done that before in his career.
Do you owe it to him? Because I believe you do. This is not like you're going to release Jose Cuas or, somebody else who hasn't done what this guy's done. It's got to be handled the right way. He doesn't want any charity cases. He doesn't want to be out there if he can't help his team win.
Right.
Also owe it to a guy who's been as integral in your success for a decade.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt. I think that's why that's what makes this a great compromise. Look, if you get to the point with him where you just can't use him anymore, where there's just he's out of your mix for the rest of the year, I think you keep him around. And I don't know if there's an IL move that's legitimate at that point. But what was it that they did with Hayward when they what was it? Remember they kept it. Why am I blanking on this? You remember a couple of years ago with Hayward when they weren't going to use him anymore. They didn't they kept him around.
They did, but they didn't play him.
But they didn't play him. And they said up front they weren't going to. And they said up front that he was basically not going to be around the final year of his contract. I think that's the kind of respect you treat Kyle Hendricks with. You don't just...
Let me tell you exactly what they did. August of 2022, Cubs said that his career has come to an end.
That's right. With them. Playing time and playing career has come to an end, and they will release him at the end of the season, which is exactly what they did. Yes. But meanwhile, they kept him part of the group, part of the clubhouse. They didn't just send him home and have him just kind of twist out there.
And he resurrected his career in LA.
He absolutely did. He was a useful part of that team last year and remained so. He just came back. I just saw it. He came back off the IL and hit a home run in his first game back. So they matched him up, and that's something they do with a level of genius over there in LA. All these moving parts that they mix and match every day and sometimes inning to inning. And he's been a really important part of that for them. Absolutely resurrected his career. I mean, that's why he's still playing, because that contract was up. But
so we agree that how you handle it, it's not like I was talking to my producer, Shay. Shay's 29. I don't understand if he's not good enough, it's basically get out. No, you don't. That's not how you develop a culture in your room. You treat
no, absolutely not. They've already risked their culture the way they've handled managers in recent years. And those are very real things. They get talked about around the game. You shut yourself out of some markets sometimes with the way you treat people. And so these things do matter.
But who did they mistreat?
I'm talking about the way they handled the Renteria firing and the way they handled the recent one with Rossi.
Hold on, the Renteria firing.
Look, man,
they gave a bonus of $500,000 and went and told the face of me, this is the big leagues, man.
I get it, Cap. We can talk about whether it's the right move or not. I'm not saying it's the wrong move. I'm saying people in the game talk about that. And when they see you do that to people under contract, people you've committed to supposedly, and all of a sudden a shinier object comes on and you jump at it, that gets talked about. People notice that. So it does matter.
Kyle Hendricks is one thing. Ricky Renteria is another.
I'm telling you, when you talk about culture and your reputation in the game as an organization, all of these things are things that matter. So let's go back to Kyle. how you treat him does matter. And it matters in the room because he's so well respected by the people that have been around him and played with him.
Yeah, I feel Ricky Renteria, sorry, buddy. Here's an extra $500,000. Thanks. Appreciate everything. Whatever. Kyle Hendricks, totally different level. And don't even bring up the Joe Madden stuff because they boosted his pay from $5 to $6 million when he won the World Series.
That was in his contract.
Per his deal, but he got all his money, man. That dude made a lot of money.
I didn't even mention him, but that's another sort of marginal example.
Oh, boy. Wow. We disagree. We will disagree on that one.
Well, I guess we will.
100%. If I told you could only add one impactful player to this team, one, that's all the money you got. You can go make fringy moves, but you can take on one salary. You taking on a bat or an arm?
Are you talking about guys that might be available in trade?
Yeah.
I'm talking totally an arm.
Same here.
Yeah, I mean, what's the guy in Oakland? Mason
Miller.
Mason Miller. Yeah, that might be number one on the list. Although he's been amazing. It's a little bit of a smaller sample size, but yeah, somebody like that for sure. And I don't think that's not even a salary, but I definitely would go get an arm, definitely, and I would get the top of the line best reliever that's available. That would be my number one pick. I think, look, again, this division can be had. A lot of the worst hitting teams in the majors are in this division. I mean, the Cubs aren't lighting it on fire in terms of things like runs per game and hitting and obviously fielding. But this is there's a lot of mediocre to bottom 10 teams statistically in this division. The Reds are one, but they pitch. The Pirates are one, but they pitch. That makes them scary. It certainly makes them scary to face them in a series. What the Cubs need is to batten down the end of games better and to batten down the fielding. I think the hitting, which has struggled big time, is ultimately going to come around with long-term health. I cannot believe that Ian Happ is going to be the hitter he's been so far for the rest of the season. And I think with Bellinger back and Suzuki getting his legs back under him and Horner when he gets back to full health, I mean, I'm not sure he'd be quite there yet, but I think they've got enough to score enough runs. And if the starting pitching stays healthy, they got to get the bullpen fixed. They got to start catching the ball better.
Yeah, last year, I looked this up. They were third in the National League in runs scored. They were sixth in all of baseball in runs scored. Their run differential right now is a +2. Not good.
Happ was part of that. Suzuki's finish was part of that. Bellinger's comeback player of the year was a big part of that. Nico Horner had a productive year. All these things added up that they're not getting so far now. But these guys' career track records suggest that some of that could be coming.
Yeah, I think there will be a move back toward more what we expect. I'm not expecting Dansby Swanson to be a 35-homer guy, but I don't think he's going to hit as poorly as he has. Ian Happ is the one. I still don't understand, and I'm a fan of Ian. I still don't understand the necessity to give him a no-trade clause. Why did they do that?
Yeah, right. When they came in, remember when they came in 14 years ago or whatever it was, 12, 13 years ago, and they said, we don't give no-trade contracts to anybody. And then they immediately gave a no-trade contract to, who was it? Was it Lester? And then Hayward might have had a no-trade.
I think Hayward did for limited for the first few years.
Well, yeah, because he's a 10-5 guy after 5. So anyway, why? Because they had to. They probably got the numbers where they wanted it. And, honestly, he's your homegrown guy. You're only giving him the extension because you believe in him. And it's not such a long-term extension that you're worried about, performance on the back end of it. So, nobody would have seen this. If this were to last the whole year, nobody expects that, even as we sit here, but nobody certainly would have expected that at the time of the contract. And by the way, if you're looking to trade him and that contract, that's only going to happen if he's going well.
And then you don't want to trade him.
And then you don't want to trade him. So what difference does it make if you give him a no trade clause in the contract?
How long do you go with poor productivity at third, poor productivity in left, and abysmal productivity from your two catchers?
We just discussed left. Just leave it alone. I don't know what you do with your catchers because I don't know what else is out there to go try to get. And if you're getting the production out of your pitching as they work with those catchers, then you accept it. Third base, you just keep going. Like everybody's got a position or two that is an albatross. That is the position they can't fix. If you get the middle of your infield back in line, and then you get your center field back in line, and left field comes around, you can live with these other things. So you go with it because you have to go with it. I'll say something else, Cap, in terms of this is a little off that subject, but when we talk about looking ahead, they had a rough schedule out of the gate, and they did all right. I looked at the schedule the rest of the year. So I'm here in Cincinnati. Cincinnati's going through a 6-week gauntlet like very few teams go through. 0 soft spots on it. All the Dodgers, all the Diamondbacks. They had the Orioles in that stretch. They had Texas in that stretch. And they're getting crushed. The Cubs don't have that. They don't have anything more than maybe a 9-game stretch the rest of the year where you can look at it and say, boy, all those are tough games. And everything else is like a series you can win if the pitching lines up right. And some of those other stretches. I mean, September, they got the Yankees and the Dodgers back to back. That's going to be a tough to go better than about 2 and 4 in that stretch. That's early September. But the rest of it, I mean, there's just no lengthy stretches of the schedule you worry about if you got your pitching healthy and you got enough things going for you. And as many things that have gone poorly for them so far in terms of health, in terms of bullpen performance, in terms of Kyle Hendricks, in terms of hitting slumps, fielding slumps. If that gets better even by increments going forward, so does the schedule. And again, we talked about the division. They're in pretty good position as bad as things look day to day. As bad as it looked for 5 innings on Wednesday. They're still in pretty good. I think they're done with the Braves after Thursday.
They are.
So that's another thing. There's 2 or 3 pretty good reasons to feel like there's a chance to get better the rest of the way.
Yeah, before I let you go, I pulled up their schedule the rest of the way. If you look at the Cubs coming up here in the rest of May, we're sitting here on the 23rd. They have the Braves. Then they go to the Cardinals for 3. They go to the Brewers for 4. They come home for 3 with the Reds, 2 with the White Sox. They go for 4 at the Reds. They go to 3 at Tampa. They come home and get the Cardinals, the Giants, the Mets. Then they go west to get the Giants. And then they go back to the Brewers again. That gets you through the rest of the month of June. Like, I'm not saying anything's easy in Major League Baseball, but you certainly have a chance to make some hay if you're healthy.
You have a chance. I mean, this isn't going to happen, but every one of those series that you just said, there's a chance to win a series.
Yes.
And there's like that stretch I told you with the Reds. They've gotten swept a number of times. They had an 8-game losing streak in that stretch. So there's times where you have these stretches where you say, man, they might not win a series for 2 weeks. That's not what that schedule looks like. That's kind of the opposite. And the rest of the season kind of plays out for that, with a rare exception for a week here and there.
Gordon, have a great rest of your day, man. Keep the faith. Here come the Cubbies.
Good luck, Cap.
I'll talk to you. That's my guy. That's Gordon Wittenmeyer. That's another episode of the Cubs Recap Podcast, a presentation of our Recap YouTube channel and available audio only everywhere you get your favorite podcast. For Gordon, I'm Cap. Make sure you check out our website. A lot of great merch. Hey, you're not going to punt too much here. All available at thecapman.com. Take that.